Welcome to episodes 9 and 10 of Making the Band Retrospective podcast. I am your host, Mr. Insomnia, and let's get right into it. Let's get right into the episodes here. Let me get straightened out. Episode 9, we start off back at rehearsal, but there's no Ikaika. Actually, let me just go back to episode 7 and 8. Everybody right now, there's 7 people left, maybe 6 because we're not sure about if Kaika is going to come back or not. So we go back to rehearsal. I know that's shocking that the boys in O-Town are in rehearsal, and there's no Kaika. So they're rehearsing this song. I think it's called West Side Story. I'm not sure if it's a cover or if it's an original. I honestly don't know. Jacob says that Trevor has gone from thinking he's not going to make the group to thinking he's going to make the group because Paul left, and Trevor says he can do it. He can be in O-Town. Damn it! They're singing and dancing to "All for Love," and again, shocking. They're getting better I will say this: they're getting better vocally and dancing wise, but they're still not they're still rough. Taiwan is kind of a little bit disappointed with their dancing. He says Taiwan, the choreographer, obviously, he says if he takes a picture of them dancing, everybody should be in the same position. While at rehearsal, Mike gets hungry and he wants lunch. At lunch, Jay the publicist says they're slacking. He calls them out for the lack of drive. He said, "Hey man, you guys think you've got to eat. You're not working as hard as you used to." Erica is kind of like, "Hey, where's Ikaika? I mean, you guys are bagging on us but we're here. You know, Ikaika's out in Hawaii. I mean, he's not getting kicked out of the group or anything." So then we go to New Year's Eve. Lou has rented out Planet Hollywood for New Year's Eve. Man, that is a flashback. I don't even think Planet Hollywood exists anymore. I think they went bankrupt years ago. Let me just double check that. I want to see if whatever happened to Planet Hollywood. Come on, internet. Ooh. Planet Hollywood. Maybe there are still some Planet Hollywoods. Oh, there is Planet Hollywoods. Okay. They still exist. Cool. Good for Planet Hollywood. There's a Planet Hollywood Las Vegas. It's currently owned by Caesars Entertainment. Let's try to think. Okay, here we go. Planet Hollywood, I'm going to the extensive research here on Wikipedia, opened in 1991, and as of 2021, there's 6 locations, and their headquarters is in Orlando, Florida. All right, so there are some Planet Hollywoods left. That's good to know. And by the way, this is the New Year's Eve, going from 1999 into 2000. Guys are bringing in their girlfriends and the girls they're dating. Jacob has a model friend coming in with her sister. Nice. We meet Jacob's friend, Thania. Jacob says if he doesn't have a girlfriend now, it'll be hard to find a girl who likes them for who they are, who they are. And he's actually right on that. I mean, a lot of girls will probably like you for what you are instead of who you are, what you have instead of who you are. So it's good that he's looking for somebody who actually likes him for him. New Year's Eve is here, or it comes. Jay becomes a publicist and gives them advice. He's like, usually I'd tell you to be out in front of the cameras, but right now we got to stay out of the cameras and be low key at the party. He doesn't want people to know who they are yet. He wants to keep this secret. The boys with their dates go to Planet Hollywood. They walk the red carpet and don't acknowledge the cameras due to being low key. There are celebrities at the party, at the New Year's Eve party. We actually see Devin from LFO, or at least somebody who they claim is Devin from LFO. I honestly, you could literally could have put a mannequin and said Devin from LFO. I wouldn't have known the difference. I know there's probably a lot of people out there who would know the difference. I also know that Devin has recently passed away a few years back, so R.I.P. to Devin. We also, Jennifer Love Hewitt is at this party, but she is not seen. Jacob says the celebrities at the parties, they treat you like your peers. Eric is like saying it's the greatest night of all their lives. Mike is like, it's New Year's Eve. I'm going nuts. Midnight strikes. Y2K has been avoided, as we probably already know by then. And the boys get on stage and start dancing and stage diving. Not really stage diving though. They call it stage diving, but it's more like a jumping trust fall than stage diving. But hey, if they want to call it stage diving, that's fine. This pisses off Jay. Jay tells Lou, "Hey, they're leaving." Trevor and Jay start arguing. Jay is like, "Hey guys, you guys exposed yourself tonight when they weren't supposed to." Says the consensus in the group is that Jay is overreacting, which may be a little true. I mean, it is New Year's Eve. You should expect these guys to be having some fun, but I get it. They go back to the house. Jay on the drive says that they had a really bad night. He's very disappointed. Page turn. Jay and road manager Mark. Jay lectures them. Mark agrees with Jay. Okay, I should explain the situation. They're in the living room. Jay and road manager Mark are kind of sitting out in front of this kind of semicircle, and Jay is berating them or lecturing them about hey, I see 6 talented people here, but you don't want to listen and blah blah blah. Mark is like, I totally agree with Jay. Trevor is defensive. Road manager Mark is like, you guys can't be yourself at this point. You just can't. Trevor and Jay are arguing some more, and then Jacob kind of leaves the group. Mark then somehow Jacob, they don't really show how they meet up, but Jacob and Mark have kind of meet up, and they have this, I don't want to call it an argument. They're not really disagreeing with each other, but they're having kind of a heated discussion. Jacob admits to Mark they screwed up. Mark tells Jacob to be a leader, and Jacob says, I don't know how to be a leader right now. And I kind of get it. I mean, you're still with strangers. I mean, you're coming together, and you don't know what role does anybody want, what role you should play right now, and how to, get 5 different personalities or 7 different personalities into one. Mark says, this is your one chance at the big time, and someone has to step up. Jacob wants to lead by example. Mark says, Jacob, you're not a star. You're a labrat. Actually, Jacob interrupts him and says, I'm not a star yet. Well, there's some truth. This is somewhat true. And that Mark actually says something telling here about when he says, hey, Jacob, you're not a star, you're a labrat. And this is basically why I don't like the whole concept of boy bands. It's like if you start a band, if you start your own singing group with your friends or try to get a group of musicians together, there's kind of this one, the vision is usually the band's vision, or at least one person's in the band's vision of how it should sound. This is 5 people's doing somebody else's vision. It's not like they have their vision of what this should be, of this how this group should be. It's no, this guy over here has a vision of how you 5 should act. It's more like they're playing a role than I feel like there's a real genuine love here of what they're doing. And I think that's really kind of an argument I think a lot of people have here, and I think a lot of people have always had about music and just art in general. It's kind of the argument of art as a commerce versus art as expression. I think both of them have valid points. Both sides of that, art as commerce. You want to make money with your art, but at the same time, you don't want to lose that original expression you have, and I think those are always going to be kind of in conflict. Also, what Mark when Mark tells Jacob, "You're not a star, you're a labrat." I think that's also kind of interesting too. I think that's a way to try to break these kids down to build them up. It's break them down from their individual mentality to build them up as a group, buying into the team mentality. So we go, anyways. Off that tangent, we go to the next day, and then Paul, a Transcon employee, tells them they got a write-up for silliest entrance in the Orlando Sentinel. Jacob's like, hey man, we haven't done anything. We're already getting clowned. The group has a meeting about being in the group. Jacob says, hey, we're good individually, but we suck as a group. Not where they should be. Brian says, we're trying to be ourselves, but can't be. Brian was like also like telling him, hey, look, I didn't stage dive, but I was cheering you guys stage dive. I thought it was cool. Which, I mean, again, it was kind of the safest stage dive I've ever seen. I mean, I've been to punk rock shows where they where they literally where they used to annihilate each other stage diving. It's like, this was like, hey buddy, come over here, I'll catch you. It wasn't like real stage diving. Or, I mean, like I said, it was like a stage diving with an asterisk. Brian also says there's one positive. There's more open communication. Jacob says says we need to agree to not to argue in public, need to be a lot tighter or it will fall apart. Brian calls Ikaika. They leave a message. He leaves a message on his answering machine. That's a throwback, answering machines. Jacob doesn't think Ikaika will make it due to his own actions, not talent. He says that Ikaika needs to be there. And that's the end of episode 9. And we start at episode 10. And shockingly, we don't start at rehearsal. We start a recording studio. And we're recording the first song. And do you want to know what that first song is called? All for Love. I know. Like, whoa, really? There's the man who wrote and produced this session, wrote the song and is producing the session, is Dakari. He's coaching the boys how he wants them to sound. All of them get into the booth. Jacob and Ashley sound pretty good when singing alone. Trevor is having a really tough time. In fact, he's having such a tough time. Dakari is having him do push-ups between takes to loosen him up. Brian sings, and when Brian sings, Jacob is like, Brian's only weakness is fitting his voice with the rest of them. And that's because Brian sings in a lower, deeper register than the guys. Like the other guys kind of have more higher, sweeter voices, where Brian's voice is a lot more deeper and just and the same with Mike. Mike also has a deeper, like kind of a bass singing voice. I mean, it sounds cool, but it's like at the same time, I don't know how it's gonna fit with the rest of the guys. Trevor finally has a good singing track, or should I say a passable singing track, like it's okay. Lou visits a recording studio, and the boys look exhausted. Lou says Ikaika is coming back. The boys not sure if they want him back. The boys are wanting to joke around when he comes back. Actually, Jacob has a great joke. He says he's going to mess with Ikaika. He's going to say, hey, Ikaika, can I get your brother's phone number? I have to ask Ikaika some questions. That was a pretty funny line, actually. So Ikaika comes back. The attorney gives him the okay. Road manager Mark meets him at the airport. They go straight into the studio. They kind of do like this split screen during the recording. Eric and Jacob, they have Eric and Jacob singing on the split screen at one point, and they both sound good. I gotta say, they both sound good. Not the biggest fan of this song, but they both, the vocals are actually coming along. They're coming along pretty good. So they're almost done with the song. Ikaika goes into the booth. The boys are bummed that he's here. Basically, Mike is kind of like listening to the song again, and Mike had a solo spot, and all of a sudden his voice isn't in that solo spot anymore. Ikaika is. The guys don't feel like Ikaika is part of the group. Road manager Mark tells them to talk this out at home. Jacob says he doesn't want to be with a band with somebody in a different mindset. He'll walk if he says, hey, look, if Ikaika's name's called to join this five, to become one of the 5, he's gone. He'll walk. They're in the car. Mike is telling Ikaika the meeting that they're about to do is going to be about him not being there. And then they go back to the house. Hey, and Mike just asks him straight up, hey, why are you not at the house? And Ikaika says the auditions were over to him and 5 were already chosen, and contract was big mess, and signing something he didn't want to sign something he didn't want to sign. Mike asked him, hey, do you want to be part of the group? And Ikaika's like kind of like, hey, I feel these guys are pissed at me. He feels it. He feels how angered they are. The boys tell him how they feel that they're basically mad at him and what they missed and what they gave up. And the boys feel like, hey, look, this isn't. They feel like Ikaika let them down and it's not fair. Ikaika says that, hey, look, I do feel left out and I apologize. Jacob tells Ikaika, hey, I can't trust my career in your hands. And tells Ikaika, you make it, I don't want to be part of this group. I got to say, props to Jacob, saying that to his face. That was actually very ballsy. I got to give him a lot of credit for that. Mark and Jay tell the boys, we need to discuss this issue in front of Lou. Like, we've obviously got some major problems here. We got to hash this out. Ashley says the conversation had to hurt Ikaika a lot. He could see Ikaika wanting to cry. Ashley tells Eric no decisions before talking with Lou, about if they should leave the group or anything like that. Back at rehearsal, Taiwan tells them they're late and they will pay. Taiwan says they're scheduled to do 2 shows at the end of the month. They're dancing the track to this track. Ikaika's trying to pick up the dance. While they're at the rehearsal, Ikaika goes off to record Trevor's part for All for Love. Basically, Ikaika's a favorite here. They really want Ikaika in this group. It sounds, just looking at it, they really want him in. I mean, I don't think any of these other guys would have been able to get away with this stuff. There's a house. Then they go to the house. There's a house meeting with Lou. Eric says, boys feels like Ikaika isn't putting in the effort. Ikaika gets defensive, says, just because I get it and you don't be mad at me. And then Jacob and Ikaika have this very confrontational discussion. Jacob says Ikaika's heart isn't in it. Lou tells him to shake hands, and they have a little bro hug. Ikaika says, hey, guys, you were right. My heart wasn't in it at first. But he's here, and he wants to do it right. Jacob says, your words mean nothing to me. Actions speak louder than words. Ikaika gets pissed. He says, you want to go? I'll go. Meaning I'll fight. Not like they're going to make out in the bathroom. Then he wants to beat him up. Lou stops the fight. Lou's like, we don't need a fight. Jacob looks at Ikaika, goes, dude, you're losing it. And we end the episode on a cliffhanger. So that's it. Episodes 9 and 10. Actually, probably the most interesting episode so far. I really didn't have to go off on tangents. I think there's a lot of interesting drama here. Again, I think we're seeing how tough it is to form a group. I mean, it's tough enough to have a group that, where you're all in and you all believe in the music and you're all making the music together. Those bands still have a lot of infighting. So it's interesting to see the infighting with 5 people who don't have that vision. It's somebody, like I said, it's somebody else's vision, and you're still having you're still having a lot of these personality conflicts. So, it's hard to get a group together, whether it's sports or music or making a movie or doing business or working in a corporate setting. It's all tough. It's all, a lot of there's a lot of sacrifice. There's a lot of leaving your pride and ego at the door. So I think these last 2 episodes were actually very good. We're starting to actually, kind of get to the nitty gritty and kind of see where people want to go, what people want to do, who's in, who's not all the way in, who's being played favorites, who's kind of being played less favorites. I mean, that's just human nature. So we're getting a nice little study of human nature here. Anyways, we'll pick up on episode 11, and you guys all have a good night, and talk to you soon. Goodbye.